Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Grossman Files. Hey. We got a great one for you today. Yeah. So what's going on, everybody out there? Son of Sam land. We got a great one for you today. So what are we doing today? Well, the Ace Brown tape. And no, I don't have the Ace Brown tape. In fact, the Ace Brown tape is one of these mysteries, one of these elusive objects, rare, unseen objects, and still out there in the Son of Sam world. The last remaining Maury Terry fans still hang on to as if that's going to solve the case for them. They're obsessed with this tape. Oh, Rothstein made a tape with Ace Brown in 1996, and Maury Terry provided the questions, and they recorded it, and Kevin Murphy has it. It's going to crack the case. It's going to crack the case. These people are now on the trip of like, this tape's gonna crack the case. Glenn Geetson's version of John Carr's suicide is gonna crack the case. What else? I mean, they're grasping at the last remaining possible wisps of the burnt straws. I mean, give me a break over here. What's up, Nikos Moss? We got Kathy Martin McGoy. We got Ray J. We got Maureen. The gang's all here. So, this tape is like, it's been the hot commodity. The notion of it for the last, I don't know, I'd say year or so amongst the Maurons. And I never gave much thought to it because I'm actually an intelligent Son of Sam researcher. I realized a long time ago that Ace the Hinge Brown had nothing to do with this story whatsoever. Just another of the many myriad of street characters that Maury Terry inexplicably brought into this in the late 90s after his mayoralty, Jim Boots Rothstein, got involved in the mix. And then all of a sudden, the gay underground was involved in Son of Sam. Berkowitz was co-chilling with Roy Cohn on a Connecticut farm while Dr. Gaj Dusek performed a ritual. I mean, we're really having fun with this. At least I am. So, so I had these documents actually for several years. And I just recently decided to unfurl them. One, because, well, I just didn't really want to embarrass. I didn't want to embarrass anybody. But the time for that is way beyond. As Eric Galati said, so aptly in a recent podcast, he said, Jim Boots Rothstein himself said, put out everything should be put out. Well, okay, we're going to put this out. And what I have today is the instruction manual that Detective Kevin Murphy gave Jim Rothstein to surreptitiously record Ace Brown. So anyway, we'll get into that, but some of you might be asking, well, who the hell is this Ace Brown character? Well, Ace Brown was one of these, again, myriad of street people who exist. They existed. They were involved in criminal activity. But Maury Terry insisted on bringing into Son of Sam by essentially connecting this guy any which way he could, making up stuff, as we'll see. Ace Brown, Yonkers. Pimp with much knowledge from 60s through SOS era. Info on kids, Untermeyer, SOS, cult origins, rich names involved. Saw a DB meeting with his roommate, John DeFrenza, in a Yonkers coffee shop. Also stated John was involved with the cult and that John was at DB's apartment the day of DB's arrest and came home with DB's mail, part of a last-minute cleanup. DB confirms this is true. By itself, this Ace statement confirms the conspiracy. John D.F. was later murdered in Yonkers in a case that apparently wasn't related to the SOS case, but did have ritual overtones. Also, back in the 70s, Ace told NYPD detectives about kids killed in Untermeyer, interviewed 3 to 4 times, valuable data, much more to do with him. He has now retained a lawyer. So here we go with their fantasies about kids and being buried in Untermeyer Park. And like, what's up with this sick fascination inspired by Maury Terry of all of this spiritually sick stuff that like people wallow in? Kids, Untermeyer Park. I mean, none of it is true. Yes, DB was part of the gay underground, at least according to Jim Rothstein and Maury Terry. And yeah, it was kind of crazy stuff that these guys were into. But yeah, we have it all here, Pat. Of course, no proof is given. John DeFrenza's later killed with ritual overtones. Okay, like I don't know that to be true. I mean, maybe that happened. And if so, what's it got to do with Sam? And this also, and back in the 70s, Ace told NYPD detectives about kids in Untermeyer. So he's talking about Rothstein. All of this is Rothstein-inspired Who Sal. For some strange reason, Rothstein got on the radar as somebody to take seriously. And so when I got into this whole Son of Sam business in earnest in 2021, I, of course, sought out Rothstein. To me, he was the guru. He was going to crack the case, just like when I thought when I would talk to Hank Chinati, it was going to crack the case. Just like I thought when I saw Maury Terry's notes, it was going to crack the case. But I remember the same thing happened all 3 times. When I spoke to Rothstein, I immediately realized this guy is full of crap. My alarm bells went off immediately on this guy because you could never pin him down. You could never say to him, okay, when exactly were you in Untermeyer Park and where exactly were you and what exactly did you see and where are your notes on this? Same thing with Van Cortlandt Park and all of this other stuff that he attempts or was successful until we came along and convincing losers like Ed Opperman and William Ramsey and all of these other very low level thinkers, and convincing them just like he convinced Maury Terry about cultic stuff and gay underground. It's the Son of Sam, like just crazy, crazy stuff. But of course, listen, back then in 2021, I was like highly into it. In fact, nobody got further into Ace the Hinge Brown other than me. Y'all might remember back in those days, I was working with Jason Goodman at the time, and here's a screenshot from a video that we did where those 2 guys on the right, the dude wearing the cap and the green hoodie, he actually lived with Ace the Hinge Brown. He was a teenage runaway coming from California, met Ace Brown on the Deutsch, 8th and 40 Deutsch. He ended up in Yonkers, this guy, where he lived with Ace the Hinge Brown. He saw it all. He saw the gay shit. He said, actually, I don't remember the exact thing, but he remembers the Sammy White murder. He was a suspect for the Sammy White murder. We got into all of that. Actually, the most important thing to come out of this video, which you may be able to find somewhere in the deep recesses of the internet, was the other guy, and I forget his name, the guy in the foreground with the balding head. He talked about how his uncle lived in David Berkowitz's building, and the guy got a note on his car that his car had been hit. How much? I'm very sorry. I'll pay you. Here's my number. Signed, David Berkowitz. And that was that to me was the most important thing to come out of this interview. But of course, when we did this interview, Jason and I were convinced we had broken the case and we had learned about the gay underground and the child trafficking networks, even though that wasn't true in any way, shape, or form. But him and I were going on the notion that Maury Terry was a truth teller, and that Ace Brown did have something to do with Untermeyer Park. And so we were the most successful research team ever in the history of this case to ever get into this Ace Brown business. And of course, we found nothing. So, you know, Ace Brown, fun topic to talk about pimps and the 70s and all of this stuff. But, at some point, you just got to realize it has no basis in reality. But like as recently as December 21, 2025, our friend Jonathan Mithsell is writing blogs like this, where the smile of complicity being the further misadventures of Ace Brown. I mean, John's a decent entitler of his stories, but he should stick to other things because he ain't shit trying to write blogs. He's talking about on September 13th, Yonkers Herald Statesman, he found a world treasure. It details local man Walters Brown's discovery of several vintage photographs. Brown was no stranger to the pages. He was a notorious local pimp. Bad things happened around him. And in 1997, Maury Terry placed him at the top of a flipper list of witnesses who would be vital if Son of Sam conspiracy ever reached a grand jury. Brown was a police informant and a retainer to the ultra-wealthy Loeb family. He knew the cars and David Berkowitz and Dr. Daniel Carlton Gojdusek. He knew what went on in Untermeyer Park, and he knew that children were being abused by the cult. There we go again. Time about children being abused constantly. These people are sick. Their minds wallow in this stuff. I don't quite understand it. Isn't it bad enough to wallow into the world of the disgusting, filthy David Berkowitz? Why do you have to think about Daniel Carlton Gojdusek? So this dumb article goes on to talk about the murder of Sammy White as if this guy knows anything about this. We were talking to as I showed you before in the slide before, I met a guy who was interrogated for that case, and we interviewed him. He's talking about all these other Peter Quinn flipper lists, the fire at Walnut Street. I mean, nice fantasies. I mean, this stuff actually happened. I mean, nice recounting of historical fires in Yonkers and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't understand what this has to do with David Berkowitz and Son of Sam. So a testament to the corruption, to the horror that proliferates when people do nothing to help endangered children, to the destruction that is inevitable when one surrounds oneself with malefactors. Walter Ace Brown's smile was the smile of complicity, his photograph an avatar for those who enabled the cult's existence. What the hell are you talking about? What does this mean, bro? You're still taking Ace the Hinge Brown seriously? Conspiracy Archives. There was a network running that included New Rochelle. I have receipts. Did it have to do with SOS? Have nothing on that. That's fine. There's still networks of these things that occur. On Twitter, Crime and NYC was talking about these migrants that came in and were running underground child trafficking networks through the hotels they were staying in Midtown. No one's denying that this stuff exists. We're just saying, what's it got to do with David Berkowitz wigging out on Pine Street? Like these people, not you, conspiracy, but you need to connect these things forensically. You can't just say Ace Brown knew Dr. Carlton V. Gojdusek because it's written on a piece of paper in Maury Terry's shit-stained files. It just doesn't exist anywhere in the real world, any proof. So to that end, though, I thought that it would just be fun to add to the historical record. Give me a second here. The instructions that Kevin Murphy gave to, that Kevin Murphy gave to, what's his face? Detective Jim Rothstein when Jim Rothstein came to town. So here we go. Notice the very large type. Yonkers Police Department, and it's dated 96, the same exact time that our boy came into town. Detective Jim Boots Rothstein, best friends with Eric Galati. Yonkers Police Department Special Investigations Division. To Detective James Rothstein from Detective Kevin Murphy, cover story. Regarding the contact and subsequent conversations with Walter Ace Brown, the following story should be utilized. You looked him up because you wrote a story that you submitted to be published about the old days and the NYPD public morals. The publisher liked it so much that they didn't do the article. They wanted you to do a book with the film tie-in. You want Ace to be a prime consultant. You are in New York to see the publisher, St. Martin's Press, and to sign a contract with a 6-figure advance. You think that Ace is the most interesting character you met in your police career. Would he like a taste of the deal? Potentially tens of thousands to be made for him. You had an old friend at NYPD run your Brown's driver's license for the address. No telephone number. If for any reason he doesn't want to talk to you about the old days, stress the money to be made in stories about cops, his chance to be famous if he wants, but rich at least. If driving with Brown to any location, remember to leave the window off. No heater fan. If you must, keep it low. Window closed. Remember, you are being tailed. Keep the speed constant and as slow as possible. If for some reason you and Brown are in the vehicle together and you are stopped by a Yonkers radio car, ID yourself as a retired NYPD. If you still are getting a summons, take it. Say nothing else. It will be handled administratively. Well, first of all, wasn't Detective Rothstein a grizzled, old, wizened, veteran detective at this point with like 40 years of police experience, dealing with the most hardened of New York City, 8th and 40 Deutsch criminals? Why would he need all this granular instruction about what happens if you get stopped by a by a patrol car and all this other stuff that's in there? I mean, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, isn't this whole thing a little strange? And also I wonder if it's an insight into the minds of Maury Terry and Detective Murphy because they keep on harping on the money to be made, appeal to him for money, his chance to be famous and rich. Like, that thread goes through, Billy the artist at the very least, and also David Berkowitz, in a sense, maybe not the famous part, but making money. So, like, I wonder if this is just more of a reflection into the mind of Murphy and Terry. But I don't understand all of this granular detail of stuff that, like, Detective Jim, his mayoralty boots, the guy who hung out with every pimp, hoe, shark crack dealer, sharpshooters, mafiosa informants. The dude was hanging out in the most debased bars, in the juice joints, and the gay underground. Why would he need this instructions? The body wire. The body wire has a range of 1/4 to 1/2 mile in the city, 2 miles in open terrain. The microphone set you be wearing is powered by a 2 to 9 volt batteries. The batteries last approximately 1.5 hours. The recording device is audio taped equipped. The antenna, I can't even read this. Turn the body mic on when approaching the subject general area, off when leaving. Why would he need this? Every hour and 15 minutes, you must excuse yourself and go to the bathroom and change the batteries. Spare batteries will be secreted in the motel bathroom. You will also carry 2 in your coat. When you are in conversation with Brown, face him as directly as possible. The mic will pick up direct conversations. Keep your back towards the area where our receiver is. Use open-ended questions as much as possible. Compliment without being obviously patronizing. And that's where this this thing ends. So I don't know, guys. Like, even if I would actually really want to hear this tape, not because I'm worried about it blowing up, Berkowitz as lone shooter. But this is Keystone Kops. I mean, this is embarrassing, actually. Uh, this is what Detective Murphy and Maury Terry were doing. This was their high grade investigation, telling a wizened 40-year veteran detective of the New York City Vice Squad's granular details of how to act around the person that isn't he supposed to be best friends with Ace Brown anyway? Like, according to Rothstein, these two knew each other since 1969. Why would none of this makes sense? All right, let's see what people are saying. So that just sounds gross. Yeah. He should already know. Sounds like Maury Bull. Yeah, I mean, this is crazy stuff to me. And there's not enough of a chat going around to really take this much further. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be a very long show. I just basically wanted to come on here today to just put this on the historical record, really, if nothing else. I mean, everybody harps on this whole Jim Rothstein as a hero of the case, and Ace Brown is the Hinge, I used to call him, because he was the connection between the 42nd Street and Deutsch Underground and the Untermeyer crew. And I was just making this stuff up in my head. Sorry. Let me just get that a bit better here. Hopefully that stays. And it was all Husau. And the only reason I know it's Husau is because we went to the ends of the earth running down Ace the Hinge Brown in Yonkers, to the point where we found a runaway who lived with him and did an hour-and-a-half conversation with the guy. Was Ace a nice dude? No. Well, maybe he was to certain people. No one's all bad and all good. Was he a pimp? Apparently. Was he a gay dude who was doing things with children? Very possibly, according to eyewitnesses and all that stuff. Do I have to care about this guy? Not really, because how many other people like him exist on the world that I don't know about? And I'm not sitting here stopping my day for them. I would care if it had anything to do with Son of Sam, which it doesn't. So that's really the end of the story. All right, guys, since my camera's kind of like falling down and I don't feel like getting up and there's not really much going on in the chat, I figured I would just put out that on the historical record so people could see the level of quality of this alleged 1996 reopening by the Yonkers Police Department. This is the kind of stuff they were doing. And there's probably a reason why that they don't want this tape to be heard, because it's probably extremely embarrassing. What does Al Wheels have to say? Yo, Manny, remember they said Berkey had a Rolodex with a bunch of numbers of well-to-do people? Yeah, even that's a little bit odd, because there is a piece of paper in the New York PD investigation notes on that website that says those are the numbers, but everything is redacted. You can't see anything in Berkowitz's handwriting, and it's the notes of someone else. So I have no clue. And and I was funny that you mentioned that, I will, because I was looking at that today because I wanted to possibly do a show on it, but I couldn't make heads or tails either way of it. So I think it would be a very boring episode. I had never read MT until I started watching your show. Now, having read it, it's obvious that MT was just as mad as Berkowitz, just not of the violent variety. Yeah, I agree 100%. Let me fix this. How's that? Is that better? That's a little better. Yeah, I agree 100%. Even if he did have these numbers, hold on, this is annoying me. Even if he did have the numbers, he could have just looked them up in the phone book and written them down just for some strange reason. I don't know. I don't have a clue. But yeah, that piece of paper doesn't prove one way or the other that is actually accurate because everything is redacted and you can't see anything in Berkowitz's handwriting. So, whoops. All right. We're just going to leave this here because this is getting annoying. All right, guys. So, listen, everyone, I want to say thank you so much for being here. And we will see you on another episode of The Grossman Files. Take care, everybody.